This has to be one of my favorite quotes. It says that the trouble with fighting for human freedom is that one spends most of the time defending scoundrels. For it is against scoundrels that oppressive laws are first aimed, and oppression must be stopped at the beginning if it is to be stopped at all. And it's such a beautiful quote because the people that are trying to oppress other humans are very much aware of this. And this is why when a law that is antithetical to liberty is passed, it's usually done under the guise of protecting children or under the guise of stopping terrorism. The Patriot Act is a great example. Most of the censorship on the internet is another great example. And the reason for this is that if you try to fight against this, if you're saying, well, I don't like this legislation, then they will say, oh, so you actually want children to be harmed. Or they will say, oh, so you actually want terrorists to do bad things. And the reality is, like, no, if you have a standard, that it needs to be applied to everybody. The moment you allow people to pick and choose, you give them the power to not only oppress others, but eventually oppress yourself. And it's with this thinking in mind that we reach to an individual like Alex Jones. It is very difficult for us today to remember that there was an internet where getting banned or censored was the exception. And not only that, but the idea, the very notion that someone for having different political takes could have his entire social media presence removed was unthinkable. And Alex Jones was literally the first person that got to experience the censorship apparatus. And he got deplatformed from all social media accounts within the same day. In fact, it was within a couple of hours. So he got banned from Twitter, Facebook, Google. Actually, I think like Twitter allowed him to stay there for a little bit more, and eventually Twitter caved as well. So it was obviously a coordinated effort that happened behind the scenes. And the reason that Alex Jones was targeted was specifically because he was viewed by the public as a scoundrel. So if you were to be against the deplatforming of Alex Jones, then you were basically considered to believe everything that he believes, and you should be deplatformed as well. Like, you should be excommunicated from civilized society because civilized people do not defend scoundrels. But in reality, most people, like myself, who are concerned with the deplatforming of Alex Jones, we're doing so because we realize that in the future, this can become normal. And a lot of people were complaining and they were saying, no, it will only happen to radicals. Like, do you see Steven Crowder getting deplatformed? Do you see other right-wing commentators getting deplatformed? And in reality, as we get to see today, people who are moderates, like Steven Crowder, like Russell Brand, and many others, are being persecuted. And all of this could have been stopped if people would have stood up for Alex Jones and say that I disagree with some of his takes, I do not agree with some of his behaviors. However, he has not broken terms of service and he should not be banned from these platforms, and the fact that he's getting banned from all the platforms at once shows a coordinated effort by people who we do not get to see, people who are not being held accountable for their decisions, and this should not be allowed. But unfortunately, it was like my private company gets to do whatever it wants. And apparently, as we see now with the Twitter files and with the UK putting pressure on Russell Brand, it's apparently my private government gets to tell the private company to do whatever it wants. But anyway, right, so apparently now, we noticed a new worrying trend that goes hand in hand with another one that's also worrying. So the first worrying trend is that we are moving towards cashless societies. I mean, this is what politicians are talking about. This is what bankers are suggesting. In Australia, for example, the government has removed cash from circulation. The banks are refusing in some places to do business with cash. There's far fewer ATMs being placed. So like the idea is that, okay, well, they want to move towards a cashless society. But at the same time, while this is happening, we also get to see people that are being debanked, which is something that's very new as a phenomenon. Like, I personally haven't heard about it up until now. I'm pretty sure that it must have happened. But usually, maybe if it did happen, it probably happened to actual terrorists, or it happened to people that were foreign nationals. It definitely like wouldn't happen to a person for having like political takes online. And again, like legal speech. Take into account that Alex Jones, the things that he said, which he got in trouble for, were years ago. Right? Like, if the banks had the problem with that, they should have deplatformed him then. But like, no, he's getting deplatformed now. And I do believe that this is another benchmark test. So apparently the bank that handles InfoWars money appears to be cutting ties with Alex Jones. And what we noticed with Nigel Farage, because a lot of people will say, well, just go to another bank. Usually they coordinate behind the scenes, just like the social media companies. And when you're getting debanked from one bank, none of the others want to do business with you. So apparently a bank recently shut down Alex Jones, which also is interesting that it happens right before the election season. And they are citing unauthorized transactions, a move that caused a panic, seeing that the business dropped from $2 million to zero, according to the lawyer for the company. Now, I gotta point out that people are so distrustful of the system that even if the bank claims that they did this, it's usually now probatia ad diabolica. Like, literally, we're going to think you're guilty of persecuting him until it's proven otherwise, right? So the fact that they're very vague about it, and the fact that they're not very open to the public, leads me to assume that, no, I do not think that it's unauthorized transactions, especially when the InfoWars has been in business for decades. Like the fact that it would happen now, it's very bizarre. But anyway, right, I'm pretty sure more will come out. But like, the way, regardless of what you're thinking, the way the mainstream media presents this is very weird. In other words, they're trying to see how the public reacts. They're trying to see who's going to defend Alex Jones, like if he's got any politicians on his side, if he's got any big friends. Now, the banks are claiming that they are not debanking him because of his political takes. They are debanking him because of certain fraudulent transactions. I find it difficult to believe, though. I mean, InfoWars is a business that operated for several decades. The fact that they do not know how to make proper transactions is very bizarre. But I guess this is going to be solved in court. However, what is interesting and what is bizarre is the way the mainstream media treats this, right? So the mainstream media isn't treating this as if, oh, by the way, this happened, like InfoWars just had like a banking issue, a banking error. No, they're treating it's like Alex Jones man bad. And I find it fascinating the way they present him, right? Conservative provocateur. I never hear AOC being presented as a left-leaning provocateur, or Greta Thunberg being presented as an environmentalist provocateur. It's the choice of wording, the framing that you find interesting. And then they also talk about fake theories about UFOs. And I wonder if the Associated Press knows that it's 2023. Like, there were Senate hearings about UFOs. There were actual people from the US government that came forward and talked about UFOs. This is what I find very interesting. When I grew up, first of all, conspiracy theories about the UFOs wasn't something to be suppressed. They were on mainstream national television. The X-Files was very popular because of that. But you had like actual documentaries and shows that would present these. Because it was fun. Like, people liked watching it. It's not harmful. Okay, someone believes aliens exist. Alright, so what? I mean, but what's interesting is that back then, right, the UFOs were considered to be conspiracy theories. However, if you claim that the elites, like the people in power, are corrupt, that the government has different agendas, that they don't always want what's good for the people, but they just want to expand their power. If you said that, then people would believe it, right? I mean, if you say all politicians are corrupt or all politicians lie, no one would look at that and say, oh, you're a crazy person. And they'll be like, yeah, they probably do. However, now it's the other way around. Now, if you talk about the UFOs, oh, that's normal. I mean, they're in the newspaper. Fox News had articles about it. But if you say that the politicians are corrupt, they're colluding with each other, oh, that's the conspiracy now. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't buy it. I mean, I genuinely do not believe that we can move from all politicians are corrupt and all politicians are lying to truth only comes from the politicians, and the politicians are very smart and they want what's good for the people. As we saw in Canada, while giving 2 standing ovations for a super Nazi and then doing their best in order to cover their ass trying to remove that from record. Like, even now, Wikipedia is trying to delete that event from happening. So just so you can see how history is being rewritten. I do not want to believe this shit, right? And the reason Alex Jones is popular, by the way, is that despite the fact that they're claiming that, oh, there is no hidden agenda, there are no people collaborating in the shadows, let's take just one of them, right? Which is not hidden, it's in the public. The 2030 zero carbon emission agenda, right? So the UN publishes that, and then all the countries like the European Union, California, many other places are trying to be like carbon neutral by 2030. Okay, why is it that everyone who's against this gets suppressed? Where are the voices that are talking against this? I mean, we live in democracies, right? Like, surely there would be an opposition. So when the government tries to say that, oh, we're going to remove gas-powered cars, we're going to remove gas stoves, we're going to remove this, we're going to remove that, where are the people that are saying, well, we don't want it? We're not interested in you removing our gas stoves. Or at least the people that would give voice to the voiceless and say, okay, well, if you remove our gas stoves, like, can we at least find a way so we can afford an electric one? Or have the conversation, like have a negotiation. There isn't any, right? So like the only people that talk about this are people like Alex Jones, and that's why they're popular. There is a huge demand in the market for alternative voices. Now, if you say that Alex Jones is a conspiracy theorist and everything he says is crazy, I would like to remind you what happened during the pandemic. Like, he was talking about lockdowns when everyone was saying that's a conspiracy theory. They were saying like that there is no way that in the United States lockdowns will ever happen because the United States is a country that values freedom. Lockdowns is particular to a Chinese system. Like, they will never. Lockdowns happen. Alex Jones is right. He goes on and talks about how, oh, if you don't have a QR code, if you're not going to get vaccinated, you're not going to have access to, in some places, like, you may be fired, or you're not going to have access to work, and blah, blah, blah. Everyone goes, no, that's crazy. That's a conspiracy theory. And then it happens. So when you label a person as completely crazy and insane, and you set the expectations at a level, you're setting the expectation that anything this man says is completely ridiculous and out of the ordinary and, like, not to be believed. But then it turns out, like, several times that, oh, look, he was right. Oh, it turns out, like, maybe he was exaggerating a little bit, but he wasn't that off the mark. Well, when that happens, he gets millions of views, right? So this is why we notice that a lot of right-wingers that are popular, Steven Crowder, Russell Brand, Alex Jones, so on and so forth, all of a sudden it's very difficult for them to do business, right? So the public is very skeptical when the bank says, oh, it's actually not because of what he says, it's just like because of some bad transactions. I mean, maybe it is, you know, but like, again, the public is going to be very difficult to be persuaded that this is the situation. And it's interesting that it doesn't happen to left-leaning people. Like, all left-leaning people seem to have, like, only normal transactions. Everything they do is on the up and up until the community notes happen, right? It's kind of like on Twitter. Like, you notice on Twitter, every single time you have the fact-checkers, only right-wingers like would get fact-checked. Right? And all of a sudden, when you have the community notes, and it's a democratic system, well, now everyone gets fact-checked. Even Elon Musk, even advertisers, even left-leaning people, right-leaning people. Like, this is what I would expect in a society that would function like a normal democracy. And it would be a free society. Like, everyone would fuck up every now and then. You know, like the Young Turks would fuck up. CNN would fuck up. MSNBC would fuck. But for some reason, they never fuck up. So it's interesting. Let me know what you guys think, though. And don't forget to check the pinned comment in the comment section. Take care.